basically what we end up with is more questions than we have answers with regard to these body cameras. And folks would like us to believe that if we just have these cameras that everything is going to be okay. And that is just not the answer. In this country, what I've grown to learn is that they put us in a situation where we ask for more oppression, and then once we get it, we can't get out from up under it. Because they create situations and circumstances that cause us to feel helpless, and then we go to the government that is supposed to protect us from these conditions, and over a number of years, we find out that they were the cause of the oppression that we were experiencing to begin with. How many of you remember the Rodney King case? It's very rare that anyone even talks about that case now. But that was one of the first cases where we actually we witnessed officers using extreme amounts of force against an unarmed individual human being, and we know what the results were. Then we have Eric Garner, many years later. And what do we have? The same results. What we have to do is we have to take a critical look at these situations, because these situations will teach us lessons about the future. And inevitably, when the city of Cleveland finally rolls out the cameras to all of the officers, we cannot sit back and relax and think that everything is taken care of. Because when we look at Tamir Rice, right here in our own backyard, that was filmed. When we look at the situation with Walter Scott, that was a situation that was filmed. But what I want to caution you with the situation with Walter Scott is that we must all watch our government. As Brother Shaheed talked about COINTELPRO and the issues that came out of that, it's critically important for us to keep our eye on our government, the same way the government is keeping their eye on us. And when we look at the Walter Scott case, if the officer had a camera on, how much different would that video be? Because what I haven't heard in the media is the perspective of the video. The video captures the entire situation from the perspective of a bystander. Now imagine if the officer had his camera on and the camera only showed the interaction between him and Mr. Walker. Would that camera effectively capture him picking up that taser and then dropping it? The camera would only film what's going on this way. So what we see that, these are the things that we have to think about. These are the things that we have to consider when we're saying we need body cameras. We need a tremendous amount of accountability with the body cameras, but they don't solve all of the problems. We also have to consider that the grand jury, if the case is even indicted and goes to a grand jury, well, if the officer is charged and it goes to a grand jury, what will happen at that point? Usually, the officer or someone in their defense will speak to the grand jury. And what we know for a fact is they always figure out how to justify these situations. And what do they usually tell us? If we have 10 minutes of footage, you know what they're going to focus on? What we didn't see. And they're always going to tell us, well, we don't know what happened before that. To discredit everything that happened that we saw. You have to understand that these folks understand psychology. They understand human behavior. So they're going to tell you that what you see is not actually what you saw. And they're going to tell you that you don't know what he did to that officer prior to this video. What we also have to keep in mind is that the media is going to support whatever version that the establishment puts out there.
Right.
And as my panelists have already articulated, then the dominant culture is going to do what? They're going to say, this is not about race. They're going to go into this paradigm about, we got to talk about black on black crime. Then they're going to go into this paradigm that all cops aren't bad cops.
That's right.
But if you can't get one cop to say what you did was wrong, and I'm not going to stand here silently and uphold what you did when it was wrong, or lie for you, or do like they're doing right now downtown and say, I'm taking the fifth and I'm not testifying against this man that's guilty, we have some problems. Lastly, we cannot allow them to say this is an isolated situation. Because we are having too many situations for them to be isolated situations. We have to wake up, stand up, and take the power that we have and demand accountability and demand justice. Because the only way we are going to get it is this we fight for. Thank you.